Hey YouTube, welcome to my channel. I'm Nikki from Genic Fashions, and in this video I'll be walking you through the steps I took in order to create this top without a pattern. If you're enjoying my tutorials, don't forget to press like, don't forget to subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And if you know somebody who wants to learn how to sew, do them a favor and share this video. So to create the top, I'll be using this wonderful animal print, and I will also be using a nice old tank top that I have. I took the tank top and I tried it on, and I used pins to mark out the shape under my bust line. Now, in order to create symmetry, I'm just going to fold this in half. Notice I didn't actually have to pin both sides, but I did. But I will be using just one side to get that shape. So the fabric is folded here. There are just 2 layers here. The fabric stretches in that direction. And I'm going to be cutting out the shape of the front bottom of the shirt. So I'm going to take my tank top that I just pinned and lay it on top of my fabric, and the fold line of the tank top is going to be against the fold line of the fabric. And I'm going to cut this shape out where the pins are, going down, leaving approximately 1 inch seam allowance. All right, so here is the shape that we just cut out for the front bottom of the shirt. So now we'll be working on the top part of the shirt, so the cups that will cover the bust. And so when I measured 9 inches on myself, going from the seam at the side to the middle. And so I want a gathered cup here. In order to get that gathered cup, I'm actually going to double the 9 inches. I'm going to get 18 inches, and I'm going to use the 18 inches of fabric to gather for each of the cups. So I'm measuring my 18 inches going across the top, straight across, and I'm going to mark that out. And I'm going to measure 7 inches down, and that 7 inches is because I measured from the top of where I want the cup to be to the bottom. And for me, that is 7 inches. You will want to measure this on yourself. And now for the bottom, I do want a curve, and it's not going to be exactly like that curve because this is just a small curve. This is a much longer curve, but I do want to mimic that shape somewhat. So in order to get that curved shape and to make it symmetric, I'm going to fold this. And once I have the fabric laid out properly, I'm going to make a slight curve going down. Now I can use the first one as a template in order to cut out an identical cup. All right, so before we can work on any gathering, we do want to put some finishing touches on the top pieces. And so we are going to hem the inside of each of the cups and the top where the string will go through. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this and fold it again. And make sure that you're hemming the inside of the cup, not the outside. So I just hemmed the inside of one of my cups, and now I am going to be hemming the top of that same cuff, and the top is going to be the area where a string will go through in order to create the gather at the top of my shirt. So in order to accomplish this hem, I just fold and fold again. And I'll pin, and I'll do that the whole way across. I worked a bit on the first cup off camera. I inserted a string at the top, I base stitched the bottom and gathered it, and I'm going to show you how I accomplished that. So here is my second cup, and like the first cup, I hemmed the inside and I hemmed the top. I'll be using a leftover piece of black scrap fabric, and as long as the length of the scrap fabric is longer than the length of the cup, this should be good to go. So I am going to put a safety pin on the end of my strip, and I'm going to feed it through the hem that I just made. So now the top is gathered. You want to make sure that the inside where we hemmed has a decent amount of string hanging off. this eventually will go. All right, so now we have to gather the bottom. And in order to gather the bottom, we have to do a base stitch either on our machine or by hand. So I will be doing a base stitch by hand. In order for me to do that, it's very easy. I take the needle, take the thread, go in and out of the fabric about 1/4 inch from the raw edge. And this will be just used to gather the fabric. So I've finished base stitching the bottom of the cup. So as you can see, if I pull the string, it gathers quite a lot. I don't want to gather it that much. I'm going to be matching the length of the bottom of the cup to the length here at the top of the bottom of the shirt. And once the lengths are the same and the gathers are even, I can pin the top to the bottom. In order to pin the cup to the bottom part of the shirt, now that the gathers are approximately the same length, I'm going to turn this upside down and I'm going to match up the edges and pin raw edge right side to right side. I pinned the 2 cups to the bottom of the shirt, and now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and stitch this together. So here is the front of my shirt all assembled, and now it's time to work on the back. To cut out the back of my shirt, I took out my tank top once again. I folded it in half and put the fold line of the shirt on the fold line of the fabric. And just so you remember, the fabric is folded into 2 in this area and it stretches in this direction. And this can be pretty rough. We're just going to go ahead and cut out the shape here with at least a 1-inch seam allowance. Once I have this shape and then assemble it with the front, I am going to have to do some adjustments to make sure that it fits correctly. All right, so this is just a rectangular panel. It probably does not fit at all when I put it together with my front piece, but that's why I can try things on and make sure it fits. Before I start to work on assembling the front and the back together, I do want to hem the top of this piece. So here I have my shirt pinned together, the front to the back. In pinning this, I made sure that the top of the front and the back lines up perfectly. And I also tried it on, made a few adjustments to make sure that the shirt fits well. And now I'm going to take it to the machine and sew the side seams together with a zigzag stitch. Here I have 2 strips of fabric, each 17 inches, and these will be functioning as the straps of my shirt. So I will be hemming one side of each of these straps because the other side will actually be attached to sleeves that I'll be creating for this shirt. I had to make some adjustments to the strap. I didn't actually need that 17 inches. And so after I tried it on, I adjusted it to the length that I needed. Notice here, this is the hemmed part on the inside, but on the outside, that's a raw edge. And the reason for that is because I will be attaching a sleeve on the outside of the strap. And that's a little unconventional, but that's the look I'm going for. So you'll see in a second what that looks like. So I drafted this pattern in my last video, which I will link in the description below and I will link on the screen. So this is my puff sleeve pattern. I am going to get an even puffier look for this particular project. And so what I did here is I folded my fabric in half and it stretches in this direction. And from there, I will take the shape of the top of my pattern, but because I want an even puffier look on the arm, I am going to go out a bit and I am going to make sure that I have extra fabric here so that I can gather it with the elastic. All right, and so now I'm going to cut that with a 1-inch seam allowance. Now to get a slight point at the shoulder, I'm going to cut a little diagonal here off both sleeves. Now I can take this to the machine and I'm going to do a seam here and a short one here, and then I'll be ready to attach these sleeves. So I haven't yet attached the sleeves, it's actually still separate, but I wanted an idea of what it would look like. So in order to attach the sleeves, the first thing that we're going to do is base stitch around the opening of the sleeve that we just created. And that's going to work very much like the way that we base stitched around the bottom of the cup. So I will skip that step and show you what the base stitch looks like when it's complete. So as you can see, I've finished my base stitch, and that will allow me to gather as much as I need to in order to get it to fit on this area. Alright, so now it's time for me to start the process of attaching the sleeve to the shirt. So in order to do this, I leave my shirt inside out, or I put my shirt inside out, and I put my sleeve right side out, and I'm going to stick the sleeve into the armhole. Now I'm going to match up my seams right side to right side at the underarm first. And I'll go ahead and pin that together. Now I'm adjusting the sleeve to make sure it's the right size. And as I go, I can pin it onto the shirt. Now I have the sleeve entirely pinned on to the strap of the shirt on the inside. And I can take it to the sewing machine and put it together. All right, so my first sleeve has been attached to the strap. It is less puffy than I was hoping for, but that's okay. It actually looks pretty cool. So off camera, I measured the circumference of my bicep using elastic, and so this is the length that I got. And so I will be inserting this elastic in the hem of my sleeve in order to get a gathered look around the bottom of the sleeve. So in order to do that, I am going to have to hem the sleeve. And so, like I've done before in this video, to hem, I'm going to fold, and then I'm going to fold again. Now that I've pinned around the hem of the sleeve, I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and sew it on, but I am going to leave a 1/4 inch here so that I can insert the elastic. To insert the elastic, I put a safety pin on the end, and now I am going to use the gap that I left open here, and I am going to stick it into that gap and feed the safety pin through the hem. After we've fed the elastic through, I closed it together, I sewed it together, and I went back and forth over with that stitch to make sure it is closed up really well. And so now we can just sew the rest of the hem to cover that up. If you're still watching this video, thanks so much for staying with me. I prepared a playlist with tutorials with fun sleeves that I think you're gonna like. So check it out and enjoy the rest.